I have a visitor who just started working at a company and works late every day, feeling a lot of pressure. I asked him, "Is it everyone in your company who works like this, or just you?" He said, "It seems that not everyone works like this, just me. Because there are many things I don't know, I need to figure them out myself, which wastes a lot of time." I said, "Why don't you ask others for advice?" He was silent for a moment and said, "If I make a lot of mistakes at the beginning, I worry that others will know that I don't even know such simple things and are afraid of being laughed at." He closed himself off to maintain the image of being smart at everything, which resulted in a lot of pressure on himself. In theory, a new employee in a company does not need this "I know everything" self-image. However, it is strange that the more anxious a person is, the less willing they are to ask others for advice, and they become more and more closed off as a result. This kind of mistake is not only made by new employees in a company, but also by the company's top management. I have a visitor who is an investor and leads a team that has performed very well, and the team members also trust him. However, recently, he missed an investment opportunity due to his own judgment. If he had seized this investment opportunity, it would have brought huge benefits to the team. This put a lot of pressure on him. I encouraged him to talk to the team about this matter, as everyone already knew about it anyway. When he came back the second time, I asked him how it went. He said that he solemnly told everyone, "I'm sorry, I also make mistakes and disappoint everyone." To his surprise, everyone said very casually, "It's okay, we already knew you would make mistakes and didn't expect you to be perfect." In this way, without maintaining the image of an infallible investor, he suddenly felt much more relaxed. He felt that his judgment was more decisive and he was more confident in making decisions. Just now, I talked about two ways to break through rigid thinking. One is to treat mistakes as learning opportunities, and the other is to break through the image of not making mistakes. Now I want to talk about the third method, which is to make a mistake plan. Once, a visitor asked me, "I always feel very upset when I say or do something wrong, which affects my work and life. What should I do?" For him, mistakes mean failure and self-denial. He rarely understands mistakes from a feedback perspective. So when he heard that I suggested he make a mistake plan, he was surprised. I said, "If you want to overcome the fear of making mistakes, you must make mistakes. You should strive to make 5 mistakes a week, record these mistakes, reflect on whether the consequences of these mistakes are as serious as you thought, and think about what you have learned from these mistakes. The more you do, the more mistakes you make. If you can't make enough mistakes in a week, it means you haven't done enough." I hope that through this assignment, he can understand the other side of mistakes as feedback. I also hope that this assignment can reduce his anxiety about making mistakes. If he really makes a mistake, he can at least say to himself, "I'm just completing Teacher Chen's assignment." I think this idea is particularly good. Making a mistake plan for yourself will eliminate the negative value of mistakes. If you are also worried about making mistakes, in order to overcome the bias against mistakes, you can also try this mistake plan. At this point, you may think, "What you said sounds reasonable, but in real life, the cost of mistakes is very high. How can we not be afraid of making mistakes?" For this question, I have 2 thoughts to share with you. First, if your mistake will cause you to lose everything and be ruined, then you need to be careful. This is no longer a mistake, but a gamble. However, if your trial and error cost is affordable, then you need to leave room for trial and error in your life. What is an affordable trial and error cost? This depends on your worldview. If you need less, you can tolerate a higher trial and error cost, and you will have more space to learn through trial and error. And when you are young, it is when our trial and error costs are the lowest. Second, mistakes are a part of life, and sometimes life becomes richer because of mistakes. My idea was inspired by a book called Finite and Infinite Games. The book talks about two types of games. One is a finite game. This kind of game has clear rules and a clear beginning and end. Our task is to end the game as soon as possible and win the game. In such a game, mistakes mean the end and failure of the game. The other is an infinite game. This kind of game has no clear victory or defeat, and the most important goal of the game is to keep the game going. If our life is an infinite game, then mistakes are not the end of the game, they are a part of the game. You may even consciously make some mistakes to make the game more interesting. In summary, in this lesson, we talked about how to overcome rigid thinking. We know that the core of overcoming rigid thinking is to change our perception of mistakes. To change our perception of mistakes, I have 3 methods. First, treat mistakes as learning opportunities. Second, break through the image of not making mistakes. Third, make a mistake plan.